favorite Stephanie McMahon moment?
Oh man. The more we look at Steph now, I think the more we really appreciate her character and all the character work that she's done. Whether it's initially turning on, well, being introduced to the WWE on television, turning on Vince. Gosh. If I had to pick one Stephanie McMahon moment, um, I don't know because a lot of my favorite moments were just her getting toasted and roasted on TV. A lot of my favorite moments were her getting roasted, particularly the one this was back 2001 during that invasion angle. The Rock and Chris Jericho just basically had one of the segments of the year going back and forth roasting Stephanie McMahon. Just like what? Hold on. What did the Rock say? Rock said something about Booker T or Ron or whatever are gonna get lost at sea, but they could use a couple of Stephanie McMahon's body parts as a flotation device. um, gosh, another okay. I'll say this. One moment I appreciate with her was when the was like the kickoff for the women's revolution. The Bella Twins and Alicia Fox had came down to the ring, and then she came out. And what did she do? Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks brings them all out. Each one of them, like one of I think Charlotte got one of the Bellas. Becky got another one of the Bellas. Sasha got Alicia Fox or something like that. I mean, they both locked up each one of them in their submission hold, and it was almost like and that's what kind of really like kicked off that women's revolution thing. And even though and the crazy thing about it is Stephanie was a heel at the time, but for her to kind of go away from that to introduce the three of the four women that's kind of like changed the game in the WWE as far as like the wrestling is concerned, it's a big moment, and it made me appreciate Steph from a standpoint of she's been a very big component as well as far as how women have been presented on our television screens as far as wrestling concerns, because she's in like her being a McMahon. I mean, she's like an authority figure. She's telling these guys what to do. If she say jump, you better ask how high. She was an authority figure. That's how she's being presented. So it's almost like in her own way, she helped change the game as far as like how women were presented on television as well. So the reason why I think that moment stands out for me, introducing three of the four horsewomen, it stands out for me just from the sheer perspective of me being a big believer in women's wrestling, and just Stephanie kind of being at the forefront of bringing them out and understanding like what needed to be done to make women's wrestling at the time relevant, because that was hashtag give divas a chance. That was like one of the most you know popular trends at the time, because at the time this was still like during the time of the Divas Championship, and 2 maybe 3 minute matches like getting no time at all. And so it was a big catalyst as far as that the women's revolution is concerned. And we got the Evolution pay-per-view.
Let's
We
not
got
forget what
the
she did for John Cena. Remember the story John Cena talked
oh,
about the rap thing?
oh yes, I remember that. I think it was I think it was something like it was him freestyling, and they heard him freestyle,
And
and it was and
Stephanie
it was the
McMahon was on that bus.
yeah, and Stephanie McMahon was on that bus, and she heard him, and she liked it, and it was like, you should do that more often. You should do that more often. And John Cena just basically, and she basically helped John Cena catapult his initial Dr. Thugonomics gimmick by hearing that freestyle and basically saying, nah, you do that more often. And that is still to this day one of the most popular characters in WWE history, to the point that we want him to bring it back at some point during this final run. We want him to bring it back at some point for like a match or like a moment or something like that. So yeah, Stephanie McMahon has had her hands on a lot of things that have been very vital to where the WWE is now. And I think now with Triple H getting his flowers, and rightfully so, I think it's about time. I'm a Kickstarter. I'm a Kickstarter. Triple H is about to get his at some point. Stephanie McMahon needs to get hers.
I agree.
So so yeah, and like I said, she had a. I mean, there was like a lot of comedic moments with her as well. Like I said, Rock and Chris Jericho just basically owning her on the mic every chance they got. Um, being one of the better sellers of the Stone Cold Stunner when Stone Cold got her a few times, being one of the better sellers of that move.
Remember the story?
But
Remember the
yeah,
story between Stone Cold and Taker? Remember after when Taker, Austin beat The Rock? I think it was Backlash, and then Undertaker kidnapped Stephanie, and then he's driving in the limo and saying, "Where to, Stephanie?" And then
I
Taker,
remember that.
that was hysterical, man.
Oh, the whole the sacrifice angle. My yeah, that angle where he put her on the symbol, and oh boy, that is like that whole angle of the under. It was like the Undertaker just didn't care who you were. He was just trying to sacrifice people. That was like a weird, crazy angle at the time, and it led to him ultimately getting Stephanie and Stone Cold having to be the one to rescue her, not because he liked Vince McMahon, because even to the he never gave a damn about Vince McMahon. It wasn't for him. It was just even Stone Cold Steve Austin knew that was the right thing to do. So that was like a pretty big segment, and that was a pretty big moment in time as well. But yeah, her introducing Charlotte and Becky and Sasha is one that really stands out to me as far as like what it started for women's wrestling in WWE and where it is now. But yeah, shout out to Stephanie McMahon. She has definitely been a catalyst. She's been a trailblazer as far as the women, as far as like how they're being portrayed on TV and all of those stuff. Oh, and one more thing. I don't want to steal nobody's thunder. The WrestleMania 34 match with Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus her and Triple H. That was like, you could make a case that was the best match of WrestleMania 34. Like, you could legit make a case. That the storytelling was great, the psychology was great. Ronda and Triple H being in the same ring, being in the ring at the same time, and then Ronda just throwing all types of fists at Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon being able to hold her own in that match. I mean, just like I said, Stephanie McMahon deserves, as far as her performance, her character, just everything she's done for wrestling, she deserves all the flowers. She deserves her flowers back. She very, very underrated performer, very underappreciated performer, and I just hope people start like really appreciating the work Stephanie put in front of the camera, and really start giving her flowers. Because like I said, Triple H getting into the Hall of Fame, being a headliner for this year. I hope within the next 2 to 3 years, Stephanie McMahon gets that same respect and treatment.
Champ,
Oh man, this is a good one right here. I gotta go Armageddon 1999 when the whole she turns on Vince. That was a very, very good one because the build up to that one was kind of crazy. Remember, she was originally supposed to get married to Test. And then Triple H came out and ruined that whole thing. Then it was It was a match at Armageddon that was skated to do everything. And he finally ended up winning the match, and come to find out, him and Stephanie McMahon was in on it. And then, it wasn't just that moment, it was the very next night when she told him why. And, when she told him why, you know, and to go piggyback on BRF, she was like, hey, I remember when you had me strapped to a symbol to be sacrificed to the Undertaker in a wedding just because you want to mess over Stone Cold Steve Austin and mess with his head. She's like, so that's why I turned on you. And the thing is, although that was heelish back then, nowadays you pretty much understand it at this point. It's like, yeah, you did do that. So, that was kind of messed up. So, yeah. But that was good, man. The whole the whole McMahon Helmsley faction, that was one for the ages. You had Stephanie McMahon becoming the women's champion during that time, thanks to a lot of interference from DX and Triple H. That was crazy, because she was instrumental in Triple H's character during the 2000s. Especially during WrestleMania 2000, going all the way up until that point. So, and then it led to another match of all the McMahons. Well, it was Triple H, Vince, and Shane versus The Rock, Kane, and The Undertaker, and they ended up having to put the title on the line. So remember, The Rock ended up winning that championship. She was very instrumental in she was one of the best women heels that you ever want to think about. People talk about Trish Stratus being a heel, but when you talk about
No,
nobody,
Stephanie's a
yes,
different level.
look,
We can't use the type of language of what they used to call her.
yes,
Mm-mm.
nobody really likes a spoiled brat. And she kind of reminded you of one of those girls who you saw in school. Her daddy gave her everything. Her brother is kind of like, he the head of the student council. Her daddy donate money to the school. Plus, she's beautiful. She's snobbish as hell, and you just can't stand her behind. It's just like, it's already that hate factor is there. But then she goes around here just kind of stepping on everybody. It's kind of like the girl who used to get in the middle of y'all freestyle circles and call y'all broke during the during the courthouse days in high school. Y'all broke. We kids. We try to freestyle. Get out of the circle. So that's what that reminded you of. One of those spoiled rich kids that you just couldn't stand. They had it all, but hey. And remember when the whole authority angle. She was very, very instrumental in that. You
Especially out
know,
the way she slapped dudes.
yes, turning on the big show, turning on the big show, making the big show hit Dusty Rhodes, knocking him out, big show, knock him out. Or I'll stick the shield on him. So, remember when crazy moment when, the big show leaned over to Dusty Rhodes and said, I'm sorry, Dusty. Dusty shook his head, yeah, and then he ended up knocking Dusty on out. God rest his soul, man. Great Dusty Rhodes. Um, Getting stunned, that little rivalry that her and Chris Jericho had late in the Attitude Era. That one was a good one because it led up to Triple H and Triple H and the Triple H and Chris Jericho going at it, and Chris Jericho for like 30 seconds winning the WWE title before they fired Earl Hebner and they turned it back over. Oh man, so many moments, man, when she a lot of times when she accompanied Triple H down to the ring, that was great. Not to mention when they had that little incident where her, Vince McMahon, and Trish Stratus, when they had that little bucket full of all that sewage and stuff like that, and they was throwing it on Trish Stratus on Monday night. That one was crazy. That one was crazy. Man, it's so many, man. Big ups to Stephanie McMahon, going from the sweet, innocent, young lady, that was getting kidnapped by the Undertaker that you really felt for, to just becoming this just spoiled brat that you just love to hate. Like I said, she just reminded you of one of them girls that was in high school. My daddy's gonna give me this. Like, don't nobody care. Get out of here. Like, what are you doing? Nobody cares. That's what that reminds you
She
of.
was
It's
more
like,
fun as a heel than a babyface because
yeah,
again, you couldn't relate to her as a babyface because again, your daddy's little girl. Your dad owns the business.
yeah. Your dad owns the business. And it's like, hey, you a character, but whatever. But then, finally she had her coming out party at Armageddon, and then that's when it went from there. The whole McMahon family faction was good. And look, although Paul Heyman was a good writer for SmackDown, she was the catalyst for the ruthless aggression SmackDown. Introducing the new tag team champions and having Kurt Angle and another guy who we all can't name at this point. Who he's already said had his best match with, CB. Kurt Angle and CB having the tag team titles, one of the best technical wrestling duos probably since Davey Boy and the Dynamite Kid, God rest his soul.
So
So yeah, so putting that together, Brock Lesnar being the champion, being the babyface on SmackDown, her and Vince going at it in a throw in the towel hardcore match.
oh yeah, the what was it? The I Quit match. I think
Yeah,
it was
I quit that.
yeah, I think it was at No Mercy.
yeah, 2003.
Yeah,
Had Vince quit, he would have to quit the business, and had Stephanie quit, she would have to give up the general manager job at SmackDown.
yeah, and then that began the whole era of Vince McMahon just trying to torture the Undertaker.
Yeah,
So yeah, she played an integral role in the general manager position. Now the best general manager was Teddy Long, but Stephanie
SmackDown or managers in general.
was SmackDown.
Okay, okay.
Hey, and you all know why I like Teddy Long as the general manager. Because
Tonight you will
you're
go
gonna go
one
one
on
on
one
one
with the
the Undertaker.
Undertaker.
You think you finna have a good night? He finna bring out the real final boss on you. So yeah, but she set the tone as far as being the general manager is concerned. And this was during a time where you can live, and when you back when they were younger, you can legitimately say Shane had more of an impact on the business in the early days. Like during the late Attitude Era, people always thought it was going to be Shane that had more of an impact. But as time went along, it's like, oh, Stephanie got more of her claws in this business than Shane does at this point, and she's doing a hell of a job in doing so. So, got to give it up to Stephanie McMahon, the $1 billion princess. Plus, man, look, for you to have that theme song, I'm all grown up, and then Eve rapping in the background,
Yes.
that's one for the ages, man. That's a hell of a theme song, man.
That's one thing I give Stephanie McMahon credit on. She's always had good entrance music. I will give her that because when she first started, she kind of when Triple H started using the game the intro song he uses now. She basically took his old one, and that one was a good one. And then when she finally got her own, the all grown up one, like Champ was talking about, my favorite one was "Welcome to the Queendom," the one she used when she was in the Authority. That was my favorite one. That she's always had good entrance music. I give her that much.
I have a couple of good Stephanie McMahon moments. Remember Stone Cold Steve Austin when he ripped Stephanie McMahon's shirt? Remember that one, champ?
It was
And
the
remember when he
wasn't it the one where she was trying? Well, he was like having to sell beer and hot dogs or whatever for the for
yes,
the for the for.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I remember
that
that.
one. um, I gotta admit, Stephanie McMahon, I loved her more as a heel than a baby face. She was unapologetic more as a heel. Um, I did love the authority part. Her and Triple H going up against Daniel Bryan and the movement. I did love that one. But Stephanie McMahon, yeah, that's about it. And shout outs to her. I mean, just setting a great example for women's wrestling. She definitely had the entrance songs. Especially, I mean, y'all stole all my thunder, especially with Eve rapping. But I think No Mercy 2003 stands out to me between her and Vince because Vince, being the biggest heel, going up against Daddy's little princess, even though she's making a name for herself and standing out. I got to go with No Mercy 2003. And Steve, when he stunned the entire McMahon family. And then when Stephanie, and when Steve was expecting the kiss from Stephanie, Stephanie slapped him. And then Steve's like, I wish you didn't done that, but I'm kind of glad you did. And then stunned her. So, I mean, I love that. And I just loved about Stephanie's aggression. And I mentioned that she helped out John Cena's career because who knows what could have happened with John Cena. Imagine her. I mean, had it not been for her listening to John Cena's rap style freestyle, who knows what could have happened for John Cena. So big shout outs to Stephanie McMahon.